Welcome to On Health with Houston Methodist. I'm Zach Moore. I'm a photographer and editor here, and I'm also a longtime podcaster.
I'm Katie McCallum. I'm a former researcher turned health writer, mostly writing for our blogs.
I'm Todd Ackerman, a former medical reporter, currently an editor at Houston Methodist.
I'm Kim Rivera Houston Weber, and I'm a copywriter here at Houston Methodist.
All right, well, I got a question for all of you. How much do you walk?
Who wants to start?
I've become a major walker.
A major walker.
A major walker.
Define major walker.
On days I don't go to the gym, I still get 10,000 steps in.
Okay.
Wow.
It's a lot of steps.
Yes. It's a significant chunk of time that I'm investing in doing it.
So with these 10,000 steps, you're seeing a good return on all this time walking, Todd.
Yeah, but I was always in good shape. It was just
Of course, yes.
Yeah, it was just during the pandemic that I was sedentary or supine much of the time.
Okay.
That I decided that with my gym clothes, I need to get out and walk. So
You're using it like exercise?
yes.
Okay. Nice.
See,
Yeah.
I've always seen walking more as a mode of transportation than exercise. I think that's been a mental block for me.
Well,
Like
that was
jogging, running, walking,
that was my old philosophy as well.
Okay.
I walked my share just everyday life, but I mostly got my exercise in at the gym.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I started walking quite a bit during the pandemic too. I found what really threw a wrench in my walking habits was moving to Houston, since there's not always reliable sidewalks places, and it's just burning hot for the majority of the year. Because I really got into hiking during the pandemic. There are beautiful places to walk here in Houston, but I find that it's only tolerable during the fall or the winter.
Yeah, Kim, as you were mentioning that, that resonated with me because I have sort of been beating myself up about not walking lately, like within the last year or two. And I think it's because, I haven't moved out of Houston, but I did move. And I used to live in a neighborhood where there were really great sidewalks, and, I'd go walk my dog every day, like sometimes, long walks in the morning and evening. I'm not doing any of that anymore. And I don't want to make excuses because there aren't any. Sidewalks, though, I think are a big part of walking. But you asked Todd, do you see a return on investment with all your 10,000 steps? I have seen a unreturn on my divestment and not walking, and I miss it. I need to get back into it because I really do think that was a time, it would start my day in a positive way and it would end my day in a positive way. Even if I wasn't using it for exercise, kind of as you were saying, you're using it, Todd, I use it more for just the mental health, decompressing sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And I think, getting that, especially in the morning, getting that little bit of sunlight, having a nice little reset for your morning, that's always how I approach my walks. And I think there's even a whole thing now where people are taking these mindful walks where they don't listen to any music. They're just out.
Yeah. I like to I don't like to even listen to music even if I'm running outdoors. I like to just kind of be outdoors and be enjoying it. And same thing with walking. I don't want to listen to something. I want to just I'm bird watching, even if I don't have binoculars. I'm bird watching, or I'm people watching, or I'm dog watching, because there's always something to be watching.
That's interesting. I probably overstimulate myself when I'm outside, because I'm always listening to something. I love podcasts, shocking. So I'm listening to podcasts a lot. There's something to be said for just taking in the nature. Is the reset you're talking about, Kim. One of my barriers for going outside is the weather. I like I'm not Mr. Outdoors, but I do enjoy being outside when the weather is pleasant. And that's just a struggle here. And look, we just got to accept it and work around it. Right? We can't use that excuse forever. Also, finding the time. You can always find an excuse to do something you're not too thrilled about. You're like, well, I just got home from work, or, oh, now so-and-so is home. We're going to go do this, or, I'm just going to relax for a while. Oh, it's dark now. Right? I mean, whatever, right? But we understand what walking is, as a verb, right? What we're talking about today is talking about walking as a noun, right? Like what constitutes a good walk. So we talked to Jonathan Williams. He is a health fitness coordinator at Houston Methodist, and he gave us some good tips about walking far, walking fast, the pros and benefits of either or for certain situations of what you're looking for. So it was a really fun conversation that I learned a lot from. Let's get into it. All right, we're here with Jonathan Williams, a senior health fitness coordinator at Houston Methodist Willowbrook. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Zach.
Now, are you a big walker? You walk a lot?
I think I walk a lot naturally. So I would say yes.
Okay.
About every day. I would say maybe close to 5,000, 6,000 steps a day,
Mm-hmm.
on average. So I would say I walk quite a bit.
Yeah, you have a fitness tracker give you that dopamine hit when it buzzes and you reach your goal.
I think we all do
Yeah.
at some point. Even if we don't want it, we forget to turn it off, or we're setting the goal. So, phones and watches and technology and everything lets us know if we're doing a good job or not. So I would say so.
Gotcha. Now, obviously, you work in healthcare.
Right.
Did you start walking and setting these goals before or after, during your journey to where you are now as a career?
I would probably say after I got into it,
Mhm.
just because once I realized how important it was and more learning, I'm like, okay, let me actually prioritize this instead of just going to the gym and lifting weights or, trying to get a whole bunch of protein in and not drinking enough water. So it all goes hand in hand. So yeah, I would probably say after, but I enjoy it. It's actually a huge part of my day.
Gotcha. So what are the health benefits of walking?
Oh man, lots of mobility things are involved with walking. So people who may be struggling with like ankle pain or swelling, things like that, helping with blood flow, blood circulation is also a really good benefit. I know that a lot of times when like I'm actually in pain or really sore, walking actually helps a lot. Like it helps me actually relieve that soreness. For people who have a lot of like foot problems and things like that, walking can actually help you strengthen those muscles like in your feet and your ankles, and can also help with like posture as long as you make sure you keep your feet straight when you walk. So there's a lot of things around walking. It can honestly like get kind of complex in a good way when you think about all the things associated with walking, but they're mostly positive if you're doing everything you can.
You mentioned like how you walk.
Right.
Like you're talking like heel to toe, like rolling your feet. Like how does that all play into this?
It's popular to say heel to toe, but we actually want to walk on the balls of our feet because that keeps our pelvis in line. That keeps us actually balanced and neutral throughout the day.
So walking on the balls of your feet, if you could describe that for the listeners.
Flat foot,
Uh-huh.
but not quite on the heel. Midpoint, but not quite on the toes.
Okay.
It's really hard to describe the ball of the foot,
Right.
But I would say like if you wanted to jump or jump rope, or when you get excited, if you're like at your child's soccer game or something like that, the part of your foot that you feel when you get excited and want to jump up and down, that's the ball of your foot.
Okay, that locked it in for me. That's a great explanation. Now I'm like, I can feel that now.
Right.
That's interesting because you think you're not tiptoeing, right? But you're not going like, I don't know, like if you would draw a cartoon, someone walking like foot down, foot, like a robot would walk or something,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
it's something that like breathing. It's just something we do automatically. We don't really think about like the whole process.
Exactly.
Did you ever feel the need to like retrain yourself in how you walk or your feet?
Yes, actually I did. A lot of, for most of my life, I didn't really think about how I was walking, and I realized that I got a lot of random back pain, like not serious, but it's just kind of naggy, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you have like those naggy kind of sore spots in the body. Then I realized my feet were turned out too much, and I wasn't really walking on the balls of my feet. I was walking more on like the outsides of my feet. So then you start to research shoes, because you always want to blame it on something else and not you.
Right.
So you start to research these shoes and discover like what technology's in this shoe, or what type of fancy arch or insert can I get. Then you start to realize, maybe this insert is correcting something I should be correcting in myself. And then you start to learn more like, how should I be walking? What are the benefits of keeping my toes straight, or making sure that even my upper body posture is compliant,
Yeah.
when you're walking, because it does affect your feet. So, yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to define walking. I guess we've been talking about walking like as a verb so far.
Right.
Let's talk about walking like as a noun, right?
Okay.
Like as a form of exercise.
Right.
Because there's that 150 minutes exercise per week, right? That general goal that people have. But what are the criteria that should be met on that walk? Like if you say I'm going to walk, like what's going to define it as a walk?
Oh man, I would say that first you have to tap into, and I might get philosophical here, but
Oh, please.
you might have to tap into the mental aspect of your walk to know that it's not only good for you physically, but it also helps relieve a lot of mental stress throughout the day, especially being in healthcare. You never know, like, depending on which department you're in, the things that you might be facing, you might just need to get away for 2 to 3 minutes, or just on your lunch break. If you have that for the first 5 minutes of your lunch break, just know that you need that walk for yourself. After that, I would say that what makes a walk is really how intentional you are and the cadence of your walk. You want to make sure you're using your whole body when you walk. So the arm swing is important.
I was just going to ask about the arm swing. Yeah, because when
Yeah.
you say whole body, that's the first thing I go to, other than your legs, obviously.
Right. The arm swing is important. The way your shoulders is important. The way you're holding your head is important, just to make sure you have a neutral spine and your chin is aligned and you're looking straight, and, just making sure that you're proud in your walk, which goes back to like the mental component.
Yeah.
So I would say that, to sum it up, that would define a walk: a proud, somewhat structured walk to where you're actually moving at a pretty brisk pace.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. No, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
So what are the benefits of a long, slow walk? Prioritizing distance, like the number of steps or how many miles you go even.
Blood flow.
Okay.
Blood flow really does help with muscle relief and even muscle pain if you have it. It can also be very relaxing too mentally. So I know it's very popular to talk about a runner's high. I don't think there's anything coined as a walker's high, but I think there should be, because a lot of people actually feel better when they go for a walk.
Like a walker's chill.
A walker's chill. There we go.
Let's coin that phrase.
Right. I like that. So I think that walking is a huge benefit. I think that if people did more walking, they would actually just feel better. I think they wouldn't feel so much pain throughout the day if we would just walk more, which is why they have things like the standing desk and, making sure that we offer different like walking clubs and even running groups, within the healthcare system too, and other systems as well.
So if you're going for distance, how do you know how far to walk?
I think it depends on where you're starting. If it's new to you, I would say you more so want to go for a time marker. Just really challenge yourself to hit the time. Like, okay, I'm going to walk for 5 minutes, and then maybe a week later, try to walk for 10 and keep on progressing from there. Once you're kind of realizing, okay, when I walk for 10 minutes, I'm walking about this many steps, or I'm accumulating this much mileage. Then from there, you can set a better metric that's more custom to you, so that you're not making any poor comparisons to what a Google review might say or what your friend might be doing, because we want to make sure we're progressing within ourselves. So I would actually maybe alter that for a duration. And then once you have a steady duration for maybe 2 weeks or so, you can want to track maybe how many miles you're accumulating within that duration. And then from there, you can set your own marker. But within 10 minutes, you should be able to walk maybe half a mile. I would say you should at least be able to walk half a mile, if not 1 mile, in 10 minutes, depending on the person.
It's probably something like when you start counting your calories, for example, right? Like you need to really pay attention to those hard numbers when you start. And then once you get kind of used to it, it becomes a habit or pattern. You don't have to be looking at your watch or your step count. You just kind of know at that point, like, oh, okay, I'm going to go X amount of blocks in my neighborhood and come back. And I know I'll go down that stop sign.
Right.
And then it just becomes more of a second nature.
Right. Which is why earlier when we discussed like what classifies a walk, I think like the cadence and the rhythm and being intentional about the walk helps you build a foundation. So when you walk, you're going to walk the same way every time or have the same type of stride every time. So that way, like when I go for a walk for 10 minutes or when I go for a walk for 15 minutes, I'm going to walk this amount. I'm going to accumulate these many steps, and you become more confident that way.
Gotcha. So let's change gears literally here.
Okay.
And talk about what are the benefits of a short, fast walk, like a power walk.
Easy answer when you're short on time, or when you are training for something that requires you to have more of that muscular endurance or lung capacity. So if like, hey, I got a 30-minute break and I got to really, prioritize my time so I can also eat, you might want to go for a 10-minute like brisk walk to where your arms are really pumping, your feet may be coming down to the ground a little bit faster, you may be pushing off the floor a little bit faster. Like you could take off running, but you shouldn't, because you don't want to start sweating too bad. And then another benefit for the faster walks are for people who want that higher intensity type of workout for themselves or type of training regimen for themselves, but they're not in a position to just take off sprinting like an Olympic runner or something like that. Or you might be at work again on your break or after work and, hey, I want something that's a little more higher intensity than a slow paced treadmill walk, but I don't want to be, doing high knees on the grass at work either.
Yeah.
I still want to, find that happy medium. So for the brisk walk, I think that is the happy medium for some people.
Okay. So if you're going for speed,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know what a good minutes per mile goal is?
Oh, man.
If that's even the right terminology. I don't know.
Right. Now we get a little bit more into detail as we start talking about like heart rate. We really want to look for those beats per minute to be anywhere between 120 and 160, which seems like a huge range, but it varies for a lot of people.
Mhm.
For some people, they can get there pretty easily. For others who have a lower resting heart rate, it might take them a little bit longer to get there. But right around like that 120 mark for most people, that's how you know you're kind of pumping.
Mhm.
And then at that point, we would need like a tracker on
Yeah.
or, some type of device.
Way more essential for this phase of walking.
Right.
Yeah.
Because now we're getting into like that red zone, which is more like a high intensity zone. So you're kind of training at this point. Like you're in like the mentality of an athlete. So you'll need those metrics to know that you're actually hitting your goal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound like one is necessarily better than the
Mhm.
other. It really just depends on what your goals are.
That's right.
So like if you're trying to lose weight,
Mm-hmm.
which one would be better?
Brisk walk.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're trying to improve your heart health,
Mm-hmm.
which one would be better?
It's a slower walk.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're trying to maintain your mobility over time, the other two, I was like, okay, I could probably guess what the answer was. But this one, if you're trying to just maintain your mobility and flexibility and limberness, if you will, over time, which one of them might be better?
So we're still going to meet in the middle with the brisk walk for that one.
Okay.
As well.
Okay.
Yep.
Why is that?
It provides us balance. So we're able to do that over an extended amount of time, but it's intense enough to where we're still challenging the body to a certain extent. So
okay.
we're putting enough pressure on the body for it to grow and for us to build those muscles and keep strong ligaments and tendons a part of our frame. We're not going so easy to where it's more so just for general health and exercise, which is still great, by the way. And we're not going so hard to where if we go that hard and that super intense every day and we're pretty much sprinting every day, unless we're getting ready to go, race Usain Bolt or something, we can't keep that up on a daily basis without running into other issues like knee pain and back pain or needing to book a massage twice a week because your body just won't be able to recover that rapidly.
Yeah, especially as we age.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, you think like, oh, I used to be able to do this in my 20s when I was playing sports. And like, well, you're not in your 20s anymore. You're not going to go pro. You need to learn to pace yourself.
Right.
So interval training,
Mhm.
how does that apply to walking? Because every now and then I dabble into, you should run or walk or jog, and that's not my preferred form of exercise.
Right.
I'm more like row machine,
Uh-huh.
stationary bike, treadmill, some weights, right? But you're out there, you're jogging, and I've heard like the whole you run for 2 minutes, you walk for one, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
What is the value of alternating between a faster and slower pace?
So that will actually, in a very positive way, trick your body into thinking that you're doing sprint training and that you're training like an athlete when you have intervals because you're going through spikes. So you're spiking the heart rate and then you're letting the heart rate recover to give yourself enough time to recover within that secondary tempo to be able to crank it up again. So for someone, let's say, for example, if you wanted to be in shape as like a sprinter or someone who can really just like really crank it out, but you're not in a physical condition to do so, you don't have the time, you don't have the recovery regimen to do so, you could really implement either tempo walks or what they call fartlek training, to where you're going maybe 30 seconds at a higher intensity, 1 minute at a lower intensity, and then you keep trickling down to where you're going maybe 15 seconds at a higher intensity, 30 seconds recovery, and then 20 seconds, and then 10, things like that, right? So you're actually manipulating the body to say, gonna go faster, slow it down, gonna go faster, slow it down. And then at that point, you're able to not only max out what you can do within your lung capacity, but you're also letting your muscles be able to kind of regroup and grow and train that way at a faster twitch rate. So I hope that doesn't sound too complicated, but
No, I follow you. Yeah.
it's the same. It's the same mentality as weight training for those who do interval training in the weight room, to where I want to do a huge compound lift and then something a little bit lighter. So lift heavy and then go and grab some dumbbells and work on my shoulders, and go back and do a bench press or do a squat and then work on my calves, and you can alternate that way. It's the same thing. So
it goes back to what you're talking about, the maintaining mobility, right? It's same concept of like, okay, yeah, you mastered the 30-pound weight, man. You got to move on to the next step and that kind of thing, or you're just gonna get, your body's not gonna feel that pressure to keep improving itself that way.
Right.
So all that is fantastic information. Well, what are some overall tips you want to leave the audience with if they're looking to get into walking to improve their health?
Oh man. So, disclaimer, I'm not the nutrition guy. I'm the fitness guy, but, I would say start with water intake. Make sure your body's properly hydrated. So within everything we do, we want to make sure we're prepared to do so. So the body should be hydrated. The cells within the body should be properly hydrated before you get started. Make sure you have the right clothes. So I'm starting off real general foundation stuff, right? Make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you have the right clothes to go on the walk. Make sure you have comfortable shoes. Comfortable shoes is relative for everyone. They have some good brands out there. Try on some shoes. Make sure you like them, and then start small. That would be my biggest advice to anyone who's just getting started. Start small. Start off with 5 or 10 minutes. See how you feel. Mark how long you made it. If that walk's going to be in your neighborhood, you can set a marker. Hey, I'm walking to the corner store and back. Hey, I'm walking to the park and back. Hey, if you have a dog, that's like a really good entry level assignment for a lot of people.
More health benefits of pets. Absolutely. Yeah, we're all about that.
Right. So that would be my biggest advice, is to make sure you're prepared, make sure you're comfortable, and start small.
Great. That spurred a couple more thoughts I had. The shoes. Athletic shoes, tennis shoes, sneakers. What's your recommendation for walkers?
You want to go as official as possible. This is actually a highly debated topic within the fitness world. That's which shoes are the best for what. You have a lot of people who advocate for the flatter shoes with the sole more so thinner, especially in more of your cross training and CrossFit communities. They kind of like the flatter kind of base shoes. Within the running community, you'll see more people wearing the Hoka style shoes and the thicker sole shoes. So I think for a person who's more flat footed, either by nature or by diagnosis, I would try to go for something with a little more cushion. If you do have a pretty good arch or pretty decent arch, you may want to find something more in the middle.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And then everything else, it's all relative for you, right?
All relative.
Talk about those shoes.
Yeah.
Step count, same thing.
Right.
It's how tall are you? How much do you weigh? What are your goals? Right. Probably 5,000 is a good baseline for anybody.
Right. I think so. I think most people naturally accumulate anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 a day, depending on their job. And we get that walking around the house, walking to and from the car, going to lunch, chasing the kids or pet around, whatever you got going on, right? So I think most of us, we're in the thousands per day. And if we have a goal or something that we like to do more of, we just have to be intentional about it. That's all. We
are not a walk here in Houston, right? We're not a walk-centric city. We're very commuter,
right?
And we're very spread out, right? It would be fantastic to just go down to the corner store and get all your needs, but it's not. That's just not where we are, who we are, right?
Right.
So we kind of have to work a little harder to make this stuff part of your everyday routine, right? It's just how it is. It's not good or bad, right? It's just this is where we are, right? So, and yes, the weather is so hot, and that's the last thing I want to ask you too. Obviously, we have some brutal heat here for half the year, sometimes even more. If it's too hot, people are like, oh man, I'm not going to go to walk today. It's too
Sure.
hot, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some recommendations? Treadmill? Is that the indoor? Should you go join a gym, buy a treadmill? Like, what are some recommendations on that front?
Always encourage people, if you can walk outside and do more real life walking, that's the best. I have an entire philosophy that we probably don't have time for about treadmills.
Okay.
But I won't bash any treadmill companies. I'm just not a fan of the treadmill.
Okay.
Just the physics of it. It's not better than walking. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'll confidently say that.
Gotcha.
It's not better than walking. I prefer everyone to actually walk.
So if you are outside,
Mhm.
actually walking,
Right.
as you put it,
Right.
long-term effects on concrete versus like a trail, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you would probably recommend going to a park with a proper running or walking trail as opposed to just banging your feet on the concrete, right?
Yes, correct. Surface does matter.
Okay.
Surface matters.
Yeah. So look for that
Right.
as well. Like, unfortunately, we can't just go out to. I mean, there are, but it's not a bunch of big empty fields you can go walk around. As again,
Right.
being in Houston.
Right.
But yeah, that's just these little things, right? When you really sit down to try to map out, okay, your walking journey. These are the little things that they're going to help you make those decisions. So,
Correct.
any last words then on the whole walking far or walking fast? It sounds like, again, like everything else in the health realm, it seems it's all relative. It's all what's going to fit you and your goals better, right?
Right. Very true. I would say make sure you're hydrated. Make sure you have a good nutrition plan. Meet with a dietitian. Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid for someone to tell you that the cookies need to, take a back seat for a while. Be mindful of your sugar and salt intake. Make sure you're comfortable. Make sure you have good shoes. If you're too hot, buy a bucket hat. Why not?
Yeah.
You can be stylish, make it fun. Make it something that you're looking forward to do. That's what I would leave people with. And know that it's a long-term thing. Start small and progress. You can always progress. So always make it a positive experience.
All right. Well, some fantastic advice there, Jonathan. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks, Zach.
All right. Well, a lot of good tips about walking, the science of walking, how to walk. Did that surprise anybody? The proper way to walk?
I had never heard heel to toe. So when you said it, I was like, oh my gosh, am I doing it wrong? But then I was glad to find out that I'm not doing it wrong. So all good.
I think it's one of those things that you don't think about it, like you in your head. Like the only reason I think about it is I was in marching band back in the day, and you're rolling your feet, and
So
you kind
marching,
of understand
heel
these
to
sorts of
toe.
things. And so that's why if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't think about like, oh, what are my feet? How I'm rolling my feet? Where are the balls of my feet? And all that, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, for sure. And, I think it's a good reminder to be sort of mindful of that, especially when you start feeling pain in certain places. When you're, going out on long walks, it's like, yeah, maybe I do have to adjust a little bit of how I'm stepping. I'm not walking right.
Yeah, I liked his description of what like a walk should look like in the sense of like a proud walk.
Yes.
That's probably something I don't do enough of. I'm just like slamming my feet on that. I'm not ever thinking about it, right? So like, but yeah, when he was like walking like you're proud, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that like really kind of like, and like, like when you're most excited where your feet land kind of thing. Like I thought those were interesting ways to not overthink it, the right kind of like level of thinking. And then I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm walking okay.
Yeah, the proud aspect of it. I think so many of us are so focused on our devices, even when we're walking in different places. And so kind of remember like head up.
Right.
I will say that even though I listen to stuff constantly when I walk, like at least the phone's in my pocket, I'm just looking and walking around. But you're right. If we've all done it, right? We're like, oh, and you get caught up in scrolling through your phone, and that completely defeats the posture of the walk when you're just hunched over looking at your device. So
yeah, I'm glad that you asked about how fast you should walk if you're trying to walk fast. Not that I ever think about walking fast, but he kind of talked about how you could probably walk a mile in 10 minutes. I think that was the number. I went back and looked, and I do not walk a mile in 10 minutes. It's more like 17 minutes. I'm taking some leisurely strolls, y'all.
17?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going slow, I guess. I don't know. I was surprised, too, that I was so far off because I don't feel like I'm walking that slow.
how fast do you walk a mile, Todd?
Well, I've never clocked it, but I'm pretty sure it's faster than that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a 10
I've never timed myself, but I'm pretty sure I'm faster than you.
Well,
That's-
and it's
I doubt it's a 10-minute.
Yeah,
mile.
I've never used walks in that way, but I was just curious. And then I was very surprised. So like I could pick up my pace even for my leisurely strolls because I'm, almost double what he said was average. So That was kind of helpful to hear.
I don't know. I feel like I can be a bit of a fast city walker. So I think, it's different than, if you're out bird watching or if you're walking a dog or something. I think I'd be more apt to go slow. But I know when I'm using walking as a mode of transportation, I like to get there with the quickness.
Yeah. But I think ultimately, just keep moving. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the message here. And there are certain tips and certain approaches you can take if you're using it as exercise, as you do, Todd, or you just need to, take a break from it all. If you have a lunch break, go outside, right? I don't know if did anybody have the Nintendo Wii when they were younger?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like every now and then it'd be like, go outside and like the window and play that old music, right? That's what I think. I was like, it's true. Like I kind of laugh at it, but yes, you should go outside, get some fresh air, reset, move your body, and the results will add up, right, Todd?
Yes.
What a resounding vote of confidence.
Really, though, you've continued to walk, something you picked up during the pandemic because you couldn't go to your gym. You've continued to do it. So it has some dividends for you.
I hope so.
Well, it must be giving you something if you're still doing it.
Yeah, I have a very compulsive personality.
Something, podcast episode for a different day. We'll talk about it. We can do healthy habits get unhealthy.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of On Health with Houston Methodist. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We drop new episodes every Tuesday morning, so stay tuned and stay healthy.